Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have former Cartoon Network executive Jeff Grant on. He's going to be talking about the brand work he did with the network. We'll take your calls and questions if you've got a specific question as well. After that, Joey V and I are going to review Supergirl Plus, our weekly trivia segment. We've got 2 tickets to give away to Six Flags St. Louis. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors, 4 Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you are streaming us on the KTRS app or on the website, we appreciate you finding us there. Hopefully you're staying cool on this hot June evening in St. Louis. If you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, hello to all of you watching. We appreciate you doing just that. And as always, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, we appreciate you finding us, downloading us, and hopefully you subscribe by now on whatever platform it is you are listening to. As always now, we kicked off the month of June with a brand new trivia segment. We do a trivia question at the top of the hour, your chance to win some fun things to do in and around the St. Louis area. Tonight, I've got a pair of tickets to go to Six Flags St. Louis. That includes Hurricane Harbor. All you have to do is answer a trivia question at Six Flags St. Louis. They have a roller coaster that is named after a Batman villain. First person to correctly text us at 84126 on the KTRS text lines will get those pair of passes to go to Six Flags St. Louis and Hurricane Harbor. In the park here in St. Louis, Six Flags St. Louis, there is a roller coaster named after I almost gave it away. Named after a Batman villain. Name that roller coaster. Text that to 84126. We'll keep an eye on the text throughout the evening, and we will grant those passes to the first person with that correct answer. Joining me now, we just had this gentleman on the Justice League Revisited podcast that Susan and I do, and we kept everything, tried to keep it very Justice League focused, but there were so many other avenues that we could talk about. We have Jeff Grant, a Senior Vice President of Research and Engaging Consumers Brand Marketing for Cartoon Network. He did that job for, Jeff, if I'm remembering right, you said it was almost a little over 20 years, right?
It was around 20 years, you're correct.
And so I kind of want to dig into that. I know we tried to keep it very focused. We were specifically covering the Justice League episode Date Night because you were fortunate enough, and I would love to have just had more people have that fly in the wall perspective of being inside one of the recordings. But you were at the recording for Date Night with, with Bruce Timm was there and Andrea Romano, everything like that. But you said during our conversation that didn't always happen, correct?
As far as my being in the voice,
Mm-hmm.
There were different opportunities that I had here and there to be able to be in voice record booths. I know I was there for records for, I think, the Powerpuff Girls. Ben 10, I mentioned to you. That's where I saw Dan Riva.
Yeah.
And then Justice League. And I'm sure that there's others that I saw, perhaps even for Adventure Time and some other shows.
And there's so many, I mean, just the ones you mentioned, but there's so many, obviously, great series that came out from Cartoon Network. When you were working there, talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about getting attached to it, because this is as someone who is younger would just seem like this is their dream job. So was that the case? Like you 20 years ago when you got this, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm working for Cartoon Network, or was this just another job that you know? Okay, now it's Cartoon Network. How was your mindset?
No, it was very much something that I really wanted to do. It was very much in my blood. As you know, I'm a huge comic book fan. You can see some of the stuff behind me. But I had actually been with Turner Broadcasting already at that point for a few years. And I was working actually on the news side for CNN. And there was a position that opened up to run my own small team at the kind of nascent offices of Cartoon Network ad sales. So uh, I initially kind of, I don't know, and I don't know why I did this, but resisted going because, the people I was working for, they were great to me. I was learning a lot. It was awesome. But then uh, through some set of circumstances, actually the head of TBS and TNT ad sales research saw me in the hallway and was just like, everybody wants to know why you haven't thrown your hat in the ring for this position, because everybody knew that, I was a big fan of comics and cartoons and all this stuff. So it all really made sense. So I did, and it worked out. And it was one of these things where I was there for the next 20 years in various capacities. So, I started in, I want to say the 98, 99 season,
Mhm.
maybe, or 97, 98, something like that. And I was there until the end of 2020.
And I remember,
And
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So, but you could actually split that 20-year period up into two sections, because I was in New York for the first half of it on the ad sales side, working for Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, and then I came to Atlanta to the Turner Broadcasting offices here, headquarters, and took over research and insights for the network operation. And they ended up layering ad sales back on top of me, so I was overseeing the whole thing for a while.
So, kind of, when I spouted out the things you did, senior vice president, research, emerging customers, brand management, things like that, and then you mentioned the ad sales too. That's a lot of words that I threw out, but for the layman, kind of walk us through what a typical week at the office would look like for you.
Well, it depends, because I mean, that position involves doing analysis of Nielsen ratings and other syndicated research that you have at your fingertips to try to help tell a story that, in the case of the ad sales side of the business, will help either convince current advertisers that you have on the air to spend more money with you, or new advertisers that you don't have to spend new money on you. So we would do that. And also there was primary market research that we would field. On the ad sales side, it was more ad effectiveness research. So if we would test a big promotion or something that we had, and that would usually be baked in with a big ad buy that an account executive would sell through, we would maybe do something on the website and then do some other sort of promotion. And I would say do like a pre-post study to see what the effect would be as to whether the consumer would be more likely to buy the product or be aware of the product, or whatever benchmark or metric that you have. On the network side, when I moved to Atlanta, that kind of gets blown out a bit, because then you're serving the marketing team, the PR team, the scheduling team, the studio out in Burbank. So you're testing new pilots, you're doing brand tracking for the marketing group and brand health surveys. You're doing work that is analyzing all of the interior metrics that you have coming in for the apps, the website, streaming services. I mean, whatever new media would come out at the time, it had to get measured and you had to be able to report on it. And then it also included any sort of research that we would do to help the consumer products team as well. And they were in charge of selling the toys and the T-shirts and any of the DVD sets and things that went on iTunes and all kinds of that good stuff.
With the toys, I know we talked briefly in our last conversation about how Young Justice was effectively canceled after the second season, mainly because the toys weren't selling. It's like a merchandising thing where people, I'm not sure if they hadn't caught on enough, but when you see something, I'm assuming ratings and the merchandising kind of go hand in hand, because if shows rating really strong, they'll put out more merchandise, more branding. You'll do like a Burger King kids meal type deal like they did with Justice League, for example. Is that, am I wrong in that assumption that they kind of, those two have to go hand in hand?
Yeah, it does. And I think it goes to a larger point because I think that, the big thing that I tried to talk about a lot and did a lot of research on, especially amongst the 6 to 11-year-old group that we were dealing with at the time, is that it's fandom.
Hmm.
And you want to have that engagement where that viewer, that consumer is going to continue to be interested and want to come back and see the subsequent seasons of a given show. So, if it's not selling toys, and it's certainly easier to sell toys for an action-based show than it is for a comedy-based
Right.
show, unless you're SpongeBob SquarePants, in which case, you're ubiquitous. But it's also, in addition to the toys, it's T-shirts, it's the DVDs, it's clips and games and console games. I mean, you name it, it runs the gamut. And like one of the things that we had talked about when I was on the Justice League podcast was the idea that you know, Warner Brothers in particular does a great job with Batman in the sense that they are able to create an entry point for Batman, regardless of how old you are.
Yeah.
And you find sports teams do the same sort of thing because there are some things that are more interesting to a 6 to 11-year-old that might be different for what a teenager is interested in versus a young adult versus someone who's starting to establish their family. So whether it's Lego and a Halloween costume, or like an M-rated video game, or you know figures and other things that you would be more interested in, movies, TV shows as an older person, and then be able to share that love of those shows and that Batman or whatever it is with your kid. And same thing with sports teams, and it just creates that lifetime cycle of interest. And I think that with Cartoon Network, we had a very unique situation where um, we were the kind of network that not only attracted kids, but we also had a very unique sensibility that attracted adults too.
Yes.
And it was one of the things that really was key in the development of Adult Swim, because when you have a kids network, having one for 24 hours doesn't make an awful lot of sense, because those kids will go to bed at a certain
Right.
point, and then you're not really able to monetize that time that airs overnight. And that's really where the idea for Adult Swim came from. And we were able to repurpose some of the Hanna-Barbera stuff,
Sure.
like Birdman and Sea Lab 2021, and then also create you know, some originals on the cheap, because that was able to help us kick it off. And we went from 1 or 2 nights a week to all of the nights to completely overnight from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, and
Hmm.
we were able to then monetize the whole wheel 24 hours.
And we have someone in our chats. Olivia Miller wants to know, did you do any of the work on the Cartoon Network City era bumper promos, anything like that? Did you have any say in those kind of things? Or was that not?
I No, we did, and we would do testing on some of the marketing programs. The city that she's referring to, I was kind of on the tail end, if I recall,
Hmm.
of my being in New York. So the testing for that particular thing was not necessarily in my purview at the time. But if there was any other sort of creative that they wanted to test after I came to the network in 2010, that would fall under some of the things that we would do. So um, when I was in New York, they also that was when they had that red campaign with cheese, and where they had the one line phrases from the shows, and they kind of teased it like you didn't really know what was coming until finally the big reveal was that it was a Cartoon Network campaign. I thought that was actually one of the best things that we had ever done.
Yeah, I remember seeing those pop up occasionally. I'd be over at a friend's house watching, like, what is this promoting exactly? And then later
Yeah,
on,
right.
you get the payoff. And I remember that era, and this may be before when you signed on, but that was the whole point. In my understanding of Boomerang was the part of Cartoon Network. They had those older shows, like they were showing Jetsons and things like that.
Yeah.
Again, some Hanna-Barbera properties, just the original series, I think, to keep that older audience that grew up watching those in the 80s like me.
Well, Ted Turner bought the Hanna-Barbera and the MGM libraries. So, you had the Jetsons and Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones and things like that that came from Hanna-Barbera. And then you had actually Hanna-Barbera's work at MGM when they did Tom and
Yeah.
Jerry and all the subsequent Tom and Jerry's. And it was one of those things that the rumored story that I always heard was that Ted basically said, "Okay, I bought this. Go do something with it, and make something out of it." And that's basically how Cartoon Network was born.
Hmm.
And ultimately, in the earlier days when I wasn't around, I know that it was the kind of thing that they built up their budgets for original programming, and I think that ended up being the engine for the network subsequently. But Boomerang ended up being the home of those classic cartoons with the whole idea of boomerang of anything, it all comes back to you.
Right.
Um, and but even that network has evolved over time, and now it's become, or at least when I was leaving there, it was a place where some of the older Cartoon Network originals would then cycle through, in addition to some of the older like Scooby-Doo and things like that.
And if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Jeff Grant from Cartoon Network. Was there 20 years. He's kind of walking us through how some of the sausage was made and giving us his insights. I'm curious with everything, because there's so many people involved, just the creative teams that you were talking about, not to mention the people like the Dan Rebas and the Stan Berkowitzes and the Bruce Timms and Paul Dini's who are making the shows. But there's the marketing people you had to deal with, the ad people, and you're kind of running herd over all this. Do you remember, was there any time in particular where you had a great idea and it just no one else would carry it out for you, and you're still to this point shaking your fist to the heavens going, you guys didn't see my vision? Because I feel like everyone has one of those moments, no matter your job. So I'm just curious, do you remember one of those?
I don't know that there was something like that. But I can say that I worked a lot jointly with my Warner Brothers counterparts. And one of the things that we did at the time was a longitudinal study on Gen Z. And Gen Z at the time they were basically right in our wheelhouse for kids 6 to 11. And we wanted to be the experts. We wanted to name the generation. Actually, that didn't quite work out. But the information that we had on fandom and media consumption and product consumption and all of that kind of stuff, I thought was really great. And especially the first wave of the study that we did, I'm a big fan. There's a lot of work that you can do in research, and then you present your findings, and sometimes it just falls off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a fan of that. So what I was able to do that, was unique, that I don't think that my Warner Brothers counterparts did at the time, was I basically went on tour with this stuff. And I would go to our ad clients, ad agencies, colleges and universities. I spoke at Comic-Cons because I thought, because there was obviously applicable information
Yeah.
about fandom, because I thought it was really important stuff to talk about this generation of consumers that they were consuming media and doing things that were very different than all of their generational predecessors.
Mm.
And, I remember actually there was a time where I went to go and present to one of our quick service restaurant clients. I'll leave it at that and not call out
Okay.
who it was. But I was talking all about our results, and it was all about long form content and short form content. And you have to think about long form content kind of like as a series, a season of a TV series, and that our consumers wouldn't necessarily know when the next season was coming. So in between the two, you would do short form content. It was games and clips and all that kind of stuff, just to kind of keep that engagement, and how the consumption of that was all based on where they were, who they were with, what mood they were in, how much time they had. It was all of these factors. And then, you could get all of this content on the variety of different platforms. And I'm going through all of this. And the guy at the quick service restaurant company, the marketing guy, turns to me and says, I get how this applies to you, but we're brick and mortar. And I don't understand how this applies to our business at all. And there's a part of the rest of the story that would actually give away who the client was. but I basically said, without giving too much detail, I was like, at your store, your restaurant, you have all of these different experiences, and a kid loves to go there. You need to think of that as your long form content. And that kid doesn't know when they're going to go back to that restaurant necessarily. Maybe it's a party, maybe they talked their parent into taking them. You don't know. So I said, well, in the meantime, what you can do is maybe we can help you build a sponsored game. And over the course of time, in between visits, they're earning some sort of credit, so that when they hit the door for visit 2, they're primed and ready to go and super excited. And that's where you saw the light bulb go off over this guy's head. And for me, that was one of the probably most refreshing and valued time that I had in front of a client, because you want to be able to take something that you did that was worthwhile to your own business and make it relevant to somebody else's business. And to me, those were the kinds of moments that I really looked toward, to be able to have people be on the same page with us. And the work that we did in Gen Z at the time when they were kids, it was actually, it led us to really look differently at how we were able to take our brands into the advertising market. And it also educated us on different ways that we could be able to launch new shows and IP in different ways based on how the set of consumers was consuming media. So it hit on a lot of really important stuff for us. And I thought it was influential enough that I actually ran my own conference at Time Warner Center in New York on the topics of Gen Z and millennials. So we could show off all of the good information that we had.
And if you're just now tuning in, again, we're talking with Jeff Grant from Cartoon Network, getting his input on sales and strategy and marketing, brand management. We're going to take a really quick commercial break so we can get one of these knocked out here. If you're listening right now, we haven't had someone text the correct answer yet. So if you want to win those pair of Six Flags tickets, Six Flags St. Louis, I just need to know, what is the roller coaster named after a Batman villain here at our St. Louis location? First person to text the correct answer at 84126 will get those pair of passes. We'll take this quick commercial break, come right back and finish up our conversation with Jeff Grant. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Cobra can run, but he can't hide. The G.I. Joe Crusader's hot on his trail. Nobody beats G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe Crusader. Cobra is shaking with fear. Crusader's gonna blast him from the stratosphere. Gotcha!
Launch the Avenger!
The Crusader and Avenger are one top team.
Gear down!
Awesome! Nobody beats G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
Crusader comes with pilot and Avenger.
Yo, Joe!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Ironic that I'm coming back with a Kevin Conroy return liner. You'll know why in just a moment. Geek to Me Radio would not be still on the air here for nearly 10 years if it wasn't for our premier sponsor, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know them from the website discoverstcharles.com. If the weather's hot, but there's a lot of great places to eat and cool down along Main Street in historic St. Charles, head on over to the website, check them out. It's discoverstcharles.com. You can check out all the cool places to eat, whether you're just looking for a quick snack, want to get a really nice breakfast out someplace to go for brunch with the girls, or maybe you want some drinks with the guys one night, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. There's something to fit every taste you're looking for. Just pop in and grab something, take it home with you. If you're on the way home, stop in on Main Street, pick up something from the main house or Lewis and Clark and take it home. Some good eating that way too, and you just take it on home and the whole family can enjoy it there. But lots of other things to do between the shops, the experiences, the events that go on in historic St. Charles. There's something for everyone, and there's something always happening. Whether you're not in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area and you want to plan a trip to someplace new, maybe you're looking to explore the summer, St. Charles is a great place to do some exploration. Historical markers, they've got all the cool events like the Lewis and Clark Boathouse and Museum that you can go check out. You can see all the historic buildings up and down the cobblestone-lined streets. And whether or not you're local and haven't been across the bridge in a while, maybe you're in Alton, Illinois, maybe you're down in South City and just want someplace new to eat, check out some of the restaurants that I mentioned already along St. Charles. And if you're looking for the perfect gift idea, this is graduation month and we got weddings happening, summer birthdays, whatever it might be. Check out places like Cozy Shop. Check out places like First Capital Trading Inc. to get your new Loungefly apparel or Jellycats. Maybe you get them a gift card if you know the person's a gamer. They have the gaming area on North Main Street, the Soda Museum and Main Street Arcade. Go play some classic arcade games, get some pretzels, hot dogs, pizza, and soda, and hang out in a very cool retro arcade atmosphere and check out the Soda Museum right upstairs. DiscoverStCharles.com is the website. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Kevin Conroy, I had already locked that in to bring us back from commercial break there, and Jeff is flashing me his first appearance of Mr. Freeze from Batman 121, 1959, if I remember correctly. Did I get the year right?
You are correct. February.
Wow, that's such an iconic cover too. Back when he was called Mr. Zero, I had the reprint when Toys R Us did the reprint when the Batman and Robin came out in '97. They did the reprint of that and the first appearance of Poison Ivy as well from Toys R Us. But that's as close as I got to that comic.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's one of my favorites in my collection for sure.
And so being that kind of sets me up for where I was going to go with this next. Being a big comic book fan, you started out with Justice League. Gosh, 25 years ago this November, that show launched on Cartoon Network. And then you've got all these other shows after the kind of Warner Brothers. They folded in some of the other Batman and Superman had been playing. They were getting air on Cartoon Network as well. That brings into account when you're looking at all the things you had under your purview, you think about, it's a Justice League. They have the video game, Justice League Heroes for Xbox, or, new T-shirts have come out. But when they're doing all those things, that's different departments under you that I guess are saying, hey, did you have, how much of a hand in all these things? Did you get to approve designs? Were you, what was your, in merchandising, what was your role, I guess?
Well, these weren't departments that were under me. These were basically my clients.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, right. So, and that was the case across, like I said, marketing and scheduling and program development, all of that. So, a lot of the work all the work that we did was really in support of making sure that these groups not only had the right data and information that was coming in, but also that we were doing database storytelling to help people make the right business decisions to help move our business forward. And that was true not only on the ad sale side, but clearly also on the network side as well. But I didn't really have that purview over the Warner Brothers content as I did on the Cartoon Network side. So, we had talked on the Justice League podcast, a lot of the toys that were developed were Ben 10 or when we had that on the air, the Secret Saturdays or I'm trying Generator Rex, things like that that were action shows that we tried to develop toy lines out of. And of course, for Ben 10, you had all those different types of flavors of Ben 10,
Right.
where he was a teenager, he was a kid, and, different art styles, and just to be able to have be able to sell the Omnitrix versus the action figures and things like that. So I know that we did some work. Well, I know I did some work on I can remember on the Adult Swim side for Aqua Teen Hunger Force and different types of products that we were trying to develop for that. I know there were focus groups that I did. We were trying to start a music line and trying to figure out, what were some of the artists that kids were watching and maybe grow a music business out of that. Trying to find, what are the different touch points that we had into kids' lives, and also figure out within that, what were the artist personalities that were best matches for the Cartoon Network spirit, I guess, for lack of a better term. But you have a very definite type of sensibility that came out of the shows that we had on Cartoon Network. And it was always very interesting to hear what the kids had to say about that, and what they would match up as far as musical acts or favorite athletes, or whatever it is in their lives that they would find would be a good match for the brand.
And we know we had a couple of the voice actors from Dexter's Laboratory on. That was another one of those original programs the Cartoon Network did. That when you're looking at the stuff that either had been there before you arrived, or some of the stuff that came on during your tenure, was there ever a project that you were like, "Ooh, I'm not sure if this is going to be," and it turned out to just be a smash success? Was there ever any of those that you, or the ones that you thought were really going to make it and turns out didn't resonate with the viewers?
Well, I mean, there were certainly a handful of those, but things that, wow. Well, I mean, you had Adventure Time was an interesting situation where I think Nickelodeon actually owned and maybe still owns the pilot for it, but we got the series, and that thing just kind of exploded on us with such a cult. Attraction to that show, and just all the different characters and even the celebrity voice actors that we would get. Steven Universe was another one of those things. I remember being at the Greenlight meeting actually at Cartoon Network Studios, where we had the guy came in who created Over the Garden Wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he was dressed as the lead character with the red pointed hat, and he did his whole and the blue cape, and he did his whole presentation in character. And at that same meeting, I know we were presented Uncle Grandpa, and I'm trying to think some of the others that were OKKO before it was called that show. But the regardless of who you worked with, on the creative side, they were all so interesting. The person that actually struck me as someone who really kind of thought about the research data, which was uncommon, was J.G. Quintel, who is the creator of Regular Show. And I know they're bringing back Regular Show with the lost tapes or lost episodes, whatever the series is. But he phoned me up one time and you could tell he was really thinking about this, and he wanted me to do an analysis that I ultimately tried to do. It didn't quite work out, but it was an interesting idea that he wanted to try to figure out if there was some sort of correlation in rating based on the different types of ancillary characters that would show up in a given episode of Regular Show. Ultimately, there wasn't a relationship there, but the fact that he even thought of that was, I thought, really impressive.
Yeah.
But he was really great to work with, and I think I mentioned on the Justice League podcast having the chance to go to the production offices with Tom Warburton from Codename Kids Next Door, and when he was in production down in the Village in New York. And I had him come to the office to present, I think, an episode and also talk about the show. And John Dilworth, who created Courage the Cowardly Dog, had him come up as well. And he did a pitch for us that he was going to do the following day for Cartoon Network. So this was, I think, Two Monkeys on a Desert Island with a TV set, or it was something like that. And, for the two of them, they came separately. Both of them did drawings that I think, at least I hope, should still be on the walls in the offices at Hudson Yards in New York. So,
Wow.
Yeah, they're interesting, fun people. I would go to the studio and they had the offices for Adventure Time, and they were doing storyboards. And like I said, they brought back the Powerpuff Girls after a while with a new set of voices, and seeing them. And I was there for some of those voice records because I remember those kids coming in to do that work. There was always something going on. And all sorts of interesting new shows that they were in development with. And Adult Swim actually even took that to a whole other level with the development of the programs that they had on there.
Yeah, I mean, just with Adult Swim and then the regular Cartoon Network stuff. Like I said, we're running out of time, but there's so many other. I was going to ask you about the Thundercats, because that only lasted the one season, and I was really hoping, because it was well done. The voice cast was solid. That's another one I was really hoping. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Samurai Jack, but the time is kind of flying by, so we may have to have you back on at a future date if you're game.
I'd be happy to do that. I remember the Thundercats episode. That was the one where the animation style was very different. Is that the one you're talking about?
Because they did a Thundercats reboot more recently that was very kids cartoony looking, but they had a more slick Jackie Chan almost looking style of animation that they did in 2011, which the animation didn't bother me, and the storyline was a little different, but it was very solid storytelling.
Yeah, but as it happens, sometimes those shows, it just doesn't generate the rating enough to make it worthwhile to keep it on for additional seasons. So you need to have that incentive to show that, something is really clicking with the audience.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be like in another, because it's already, like I said, we're talking about 15 years since that debuted, that one. I wonder if that's going to get one of those cult followings. People will pick it back up and demand more in another 5 years.
Maybe. And that was kind of, you were mentioning the Samurai Jack. We ran that on Cartoon Network originally, and it came back to run on Adult Swim, which I thought was really the correct platform for it. And even beyond that, because it was Gendy Tartakovsky created Samurai Jack. I was actually there in the office when Gendy came to present the animatic for Primal, and he actually did all of the sound effects and everything just to kind of take us through what the first episode was going to look like, and it was fascinating. He was really great.
Olivia Miller says, they also recently brought back Totally Spies on Cartoon Network's channel as well. I was not aware of that. Everything. I think there's that nostalgia is such a powerful drug. I think it's just one of those things.
Totally Spies wasn't a Cartoon Network original. It was an acquired show. And we had a handful of acquired shows that came on, but that was one that lasted actually a long time. I think it ran in Magoozy for a while, which was the afternoon block that took over from Toonami when that went away, and then Adult Swim brought that back, and that came back as an April Fool's stunt. And it was so popular they made it a permanent fixture.
You just never know. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the other chats too well. I'm sorry. Hello, SJ, listening from California. We got Michael Duncan watching right here from the St. Louis area, Joseph Rogers and Steve Holman. Hello to all of you. I'm trying to keep up in the chats, but I kind of lose focus. I just get into my zone with the conversation. But I know, like I said, we're definitely going to have you back on again. People want to find out more about you or keep up with you. Is Instagram the best place to connect?
Instagram is where I curate my collection. So if you're interested in comics, I'm at Eugene's _ spinner rack. Otherwise, you can see me on LinkedIn, and that's probably the best place to reach me professionally.
Perfect. Yeah, if you're up for it, we'll have to have you back on because, like I said, there's probably like another dozen shows that I'd love to kind of talk to you about what hand you had in each one of them, what the marketing and stuff like that was like, and research that you found out about them. But I do thank you for your time tonight on a Sunday night, and we'll keep in contact over Instagram if nothing else.
My pleasure, James. Great to see you.
You too. Thanks so much, Jeff. Take care.
All right. All right.
There he goes, Jeff Grant. Thank you all for watching tonight. Like I said, I'm so sorry. It's in the zone. I miss your comments and texts. I appreciate everyone watching. And for those of you who aren't tuning in or anything like that or hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, that's why you need to watch us live. That way you can ask your questions of my guest as we go. We're going to take another quick commercial break. We're going to come right back. And Joey V and I are going to review Supergirl. If you've seen this in theaters, maybe you've heard the people saying it's a horrible movie. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy in space. Maybe you've heard people say it's the greatest movie ever. Joey and I will give you a nuanced take on it. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Oh, this town's changed.
We switched it around. Now we're playing cops and robbers. You'll be the robber.
Okay.
The new Hot Wheels USA Builder set. Sheriff Patrol Car and Camaro Z28 sold separately.
It's going up.
You have to put the set together, and you can change it around.
Hey, wasn't there a road here?
Not anymore, Dad.
Hot Wheels USA Builder set. Not for use with Hot Wheels Hauler. Hot Wheels cars sold separately. New from Mattel.
The Legoland Beta 1 command base. You build it for action. You can pretend the radar sounds an alert, a signal to the crew. So you slide them to the launch pad for a make-believe rescue. And how about the new mobile rocket transport? You can drive it over make-believe craters, then get ready for flight. You can lower the rocket, pretend to fire, and blast it out of sight.
The action's up to you.
The new Legoland mobile rocket transport from the Legoland collection. Legoland Beta 1 command base sold separately from Lego Systems.
Light bright, turn on the magic of colored lights. Light bright.
Hi, this is George Newbern, the voice of Superman. You are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Thought we'd come back with another Justice League alumni for our return liner there. George Newbern, the voice of Superman from Justice League, celebrating 25 years. 25-year anniversary on Cartoon Network. For the Six Flags tickets, Sue from Oakville, you are so close. You're dancing all around it. I'm going to state the answer again. And actually, my guest, Jeff Grant, gave you a hint with that comic book he held up. There's a roller coaster at Six Flags St. Louis that is named after a Batman villain. He made his debut in that comic book that our friend Jeff showed us. He was originally called Mr. Zero. So, Sue, if you're so close, you got a couple, you're hitting all around like Battleship. You just need to drop the answer right there and hit it head on. Hopefully that helped you out with Jeff's clue. I want to make sure we tell you about, speaking of comic books, Bugs Comics and Games. If you're wanting to get into DC Comics, I was just out and saw Larry this past Wednesday for New Comic Book Day, as one does. And he said, boy, some guy came in, said he saw Supergirl, bought all my copies of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the trade paperback versions that he had from the movie is based on, that we're all going to see hopefully this weekend. You saw it. If not, you can still have time to see it. It's opening weekend. And it's great that he's got those. He's going to have to order some more, and people are coming in. And that's what I love about these movies, that they're getting people to come into the comic book shops and making them curious. The comic books are feeding these movies. We're getting all these great movies because of the comic books. And then people are seeing the movies, and if they're what we call newbies or normies who haven't read a comic book, they're like, whoa, I want to check out these comic books now. So that's great that we've got that cross-promotion. Superman did the same thing with comic book shops. Larry saw a surge of people coming in wanting to get Superman comics after seeing Superman the movie or last year. So if you're wanting to maybe pick up some comics, or maybe you're a long-time reader, you fell off for a while and you want to see what's new, Bugs Comics and Games in O'Fallon, Missouri on Bryan Road. You can get them from Highway 70 or from Highway 364. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram, Bugs Comics AND Games. You can find out more about him there, and he's got stuff in his inventory he'll put up for sale on Instagram. You can say, hey, you know what? That issue of Marvel Comics, Boy, I'd love that. I'll go ahead and get that from you. He sends you a PayPal invoice. You pay the invoice. He ships the comics safe and sound to your door. So it's like having a local comic book shop online. If you have comic questions, you want to find out what your collection's worth, bring it by because he's always buying. He just got a very cool collection of Copper Age ones. I'm flipping through those Iron Man comics last time I was there. He had almost a full run of Iron Man, full run of Marvel Team Up featuring Spider-Man and some really cool stuff. So he's always got new stock coming in. And I always say it's not a comic book shop if they don't have back issues. He's got plenty of those. Check him out online, Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you go by the brick and mortar store. Support these local comic book shops. Support these local businesses, and especially brick and mortar comic book shops. Because as we found out, when they go away, you're very sad and we don't have a comic book shop to go to anymore. So get out and support those businesses. Buy your local comic book shops on New Comic Book Day. Check them out. And you'll be able to get your new comics every Wednesday or put a pull list together. That way you never miss out on a comic book. If you can't get there Wednesday, like those issues of Absolute Batman or something like that might be selling out. It's on your pull list. You don't have to worry about it. Bugs Comics and Games. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. So, speaking of comic books, speaking of Supergirl, Joey V and I both went to the same screening. He actually sat next to me. Normally I'm like, hey, you want to sit next to each other? He's like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to sit closer to the screen. You don't like to sit back where I sit.
Well, it just depends. We did go to the IMAX, so the screen was massive, so I didn't mind it as much. It's okay. But I do like to have my whole field of vision just filled up, and I also love the bar. When you can sit where you have the bar in front of your feet and you just put your feet up, I love that. And you actually picked out a bar for us further in the back, so it all worked out.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's the IMAX is a great place. Now, some movies we see in IMAX sometimes I didn't need to see this movie in IMAX. It doesn't need to be seen. I think this one with all the big sprawling effects in space when she's floating up in front of a yellow sun to reabsorb her powers, I think IMAX is a good format for this.
And there's always a good quality control with IMAX because they have the snitch line at the end of the movie saying, how was it? You better let us know. So I know that the Ronnies will usually take good care of the IMAX screenings where it'll sound good and it'll look good, even if you think, it's not really worth it. It is worth it because you know you're going to get the best projection.
And the movie itself, now this is the second in the new DCU, DCEU, whatever you want to call it, because we had the Snyderverse, which ended with The Flash, and then this new movie series launched with James Gunn's Superman. And now we've got this new Supergirl. James Gunn did not write or direct this one, but a lot of people saying it had a lot of James Gunn flavor to it. What do you have an opinion about James Gunn's movies one way or the other?
Well, he lives right next door to us here at the station. So, James, you're always welcome to come on the show. Whatever we say tonight, it's not us being mean to you. I always have loved James Gunn's sense of humor. It's childish to most people, but it makes me laugh. I love Peacemaker, the TV show, and that's hard for me to get me to watch TV shows, but I do like his sense of humor. And then his choice of music almost always elevates a scene. And then just the character development, the characters are funny and you feel like they're friends. If you look back to Superman, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And I think Mr. Terrific, I'd never heard of him before. He was the star of the movie, basically. So James Gunn's ability to bring someone out of the annals of the comic book history and then make them a star, I think he's really good at that. No one knew who Peacemaker was before the Suicide Squad, and now he's got his own TV show going into a 3rd season. I love the way he chooses these people. Polka Dot Man. I mean, another example. Who cared about Polka Dot Man? David Dastmalchian and what James Gunn did, it was wonderful.
If you had Detective Comics number 300, the first appearance of the Polka Dot Man, you cared deeply about the Polka Dot Man. I'm just going to put it out there. And our friend Jeff Grant probably has that comic in his collection. Craig Parsons, that jacket is dope. I'm not sure if he means your flannel jacket or if he means my Geek to Me radio jacket.
Oh, definitely your Geek to Me Eddie Bauer original.
Yeah, well, maybe. But thank you for watching, Craig. Steve Holman, thank you for watching as well. I think our friend did get Sue. The air conditioner's on. The volume's too low for the radio. Do you say you're looking for the name of the ride or the movie that inspired it? So the fact that the air conditioning is on, and hopefully it's very cold, Sue, that's what I'm looking for. The name of that ride, the roller coaster that the Batman villain is named after. You're so close. We're playing a game of warmer and colder. You're red hot right now, but also you want to be ice cold, if you know what I mean.
We're doing trivia right now to give away tickets to Six Flags, and all we want to know is the name of the roller coaster that goes backwards. And Sue has guessed every ride at Six Flags St. Louis except for the one, but we're going to give her the tickets no matter what because she's making us laugh.
She's so close. Sue, I love this, and I just for my purpose of my own sanity, Sue, as long as you text the correct correct answer, and you actually text us that particular chilling Batman villain, the tickets are yours. I just need to see the words on the screen by laws of KTRS, actually. But as we're talking here, I think the reason I like this one slightly more than Superman is because that was one of my complaints about James Gunn's Superman, was that it was Superman and friends. You did not get the focus on, the main character like you did with the original 1978 Superman or the 1989 Batman. And that was my complaint with those Warner Brothers films. As the film series went on, they just shoehorned every character in. So by the time you got to Batman and Robin, you had 3 villains. You had Robin, you had Batgirl, Alfred was dying, you had all this other stuff going on. I want it to be about the main hero, unless you're doing Avengers or Justice League, and then you can go ahead and put a bunch of people in it.
He loves a team up, that James Gunn.
But Supergirl did that. It took that complaint off the board for me. It focused on this character, and it stayed very close, not entirely close, but very close to the Tom King story, the comic that is based off of for this movie. Mr. Freeze, Sue, you're correct. Sue
I'm
from
gonna
Oakville.
freaking puke. I love it, Sue. You are the greatest.
Sue, I'm going to contact you after the show. I'm going to send you a text on how to get those tickets to Six Flags St. Louis. Sue, thank you very much for listening. So the tickets are yours, just to make no mistake. Sue from Oakville, thank you very much.
I love going to comic book movies with you, James, because you know all the history. You can memorize the covers just by me saying a number. You know exactly what's on that. So I know you're always seeing stuff deeper than I am. And for me, it was actually very exciting to see some of Supergirl's vulnerabilities. I had not thought about this at all, but if Supergirl is away from a yellow sun, specifically Earth's sun, which gives her powers, she is losing her powers, and she's so depressed about her whole family dying because of what happened with Krypton that she just needs to be away from Earth and drink her cares away, and she's getting drunk all over the galaxy. And I didn't really think about that. Like, even if she's not drinking the alcohol, because it seems like she's spilling every drink she has. Crypto will knock over a drink and she never gets it in her mouth, but because she's not near the sun, she's feeling the effects of what we would consider maybe an alcohol problem. And I'd love seeing a vulnerable superhero like that.
Yeah, and the fact that it's one of those, Superman and Supergirl by extension have very few vulnerabilities. Obviously, kryptonite being the biggest, most well-known, but then you've got the red sun radiation. So if it's a red sun where Krypton orbited a red sun, they had no powers. And then Jor-El did the research. When we send him to Earth, it's a yellow sun. He's going to have all these amazing abilities, be able to fly. And I don't know how they knew that unless they'd tested it. Mm-hmm. That was maybe a question for one of the 60s comics when Kurt Swan was in charge of the Superman titles. Maybe he explored that more. I don't know. But so the one other little, I don't want to give things away, though. I'm going to hold off that criticism because I don't want to give things away. Did you want to?
I'm not an expert in any of the Superman lore. He's kind of a perfect guy, so some people have trouble getting behind him. They love anti-heroes, so Superman just stands for justice. But it is a little questionable in this James Gunn world whether his parents were evil. But I still love Superman, how happy it is. And when you look at Krypton, I loved everything to do with planet Krypton. All of the backstory, how beautiful it looked like.
Yeah.
In 1978, the Krypton stuff was just kind of weird shapes and spikes. You didn't get to see Krypton. Here, you really get to see the world. And I loved the dynamic with her family. You could see that she was loved, and they loved her, and they were all about the good. So now we're kind of questioning what's Superman's thing with his dad. Bradley Cooper's playing his dad, and it seemed like he wanted him to conquer worlds. But still, it's fascinating. Everything to do with Krypton. They're more fleshed out in this movie.
Yeah.
They're different people. They're not just one type of alien.
That was my big complaint with the James Gunn Superman movie too, was that he treated the Jor-El and Superman's mom were world conquerors. We're going to send you and you'll be able to rule this world. That's Zod. That's not Jor-El. I didn't care for that particular twist. I know it's just maybe James Gunn subverting expectations, where he's taken it from a newer Superman story that I just haven't read. But I didn't care for that. But the Supergirl one, I think the original Superman I gave, not the original, the one that came out last year with David Cornsweet, I gave 3 stars. This one, I liked it a little bit more. I liked the action sequences. Lobo was great. Jason Momoa. People were saying, oh, look, it's Jason Momoa playing Lobo or playing Jason Momoa. I thought he was good. I thought he leaned into this one a little bit more than Aquaman because I felt he was miscast as Aquaman, so I liked him in this role. But overall, I think he's got that awesome motorcycle he was riding around, because that's part of his thing in the comic books. He's got this cosmic motorcycle, his hog that he rides around.
He felt a little crowbarred in to me because everything that I've heard about this Woman of Tomorrow comic, he's not in that.
Correct.
And people just wanted to bring Jason Momoa back now that the whole Aquaman series basically doesn't exist anymore. And you told me that he is kind of a jock and he talks in these one-note sort of sentences like, you hurt me, you made me angry. That sort of dialogue I thought was lazy, but you said that was kind of true to the character. When I picture a Wolverine type, I picture him doing little quips like with Deadpool. And that's what I thought Lobo was like. I thought he was supposed to be more of like a fourth wall breaker, but this seemed like a very simple character, and he just pops out of nowhere because he's traversing the galaxy, and they run into Supergirl and this little side character Ruthie as well, and they do a little few fights, and then Lobo goes off on his way again.
Yeah, he was a little not quite done exactly like I would have liked him to sing because he's not a fourth wall breaker. He is very just down, dirty, sarcastic. He likes grabbing Superman by the cape and swinging him around and taunting him while he's doing it. So he's on Superman's strength level, which is kind of why, because I had to go to the bathroom because I drink 2 large sodas as I'm watching these movies. But I came back and Lobo's in a jail cell. I'm like, well, what kind of bars are keeping Lobo in there? I get, Superman, Supergirl, Red Sun, they're affected by it. He should be able to knock those bars off, pull them apart or whatever else. So I don't know if I missed something or what that was about. But so a couple little quibbles. I think I will give it to Jason Momoa, though. He was much more suited for Lobo than he ever was for Aquaman. So despite my little tiny comic book nerd quibbles with the character, I didn't mind it.
This story feels a little too simple for me. I wanted something a little bit more complex, and it's a John Wick thing where somebody hurts Supergirl's dog and she wants revenge, and that's it. She's going to go all over the galaxy to find the people that hurt her dog, and then when she catches up to them, they don't even remember hurting the dog. They're just mean for no reason, which is fine. An evil person can just be evil as they pass through the galaxy, but him saying like, oh, what? I don't even remember hurting you. What are you talking about? And he happens to have the antidote around his neck, and she's got to get that. So it makes sense. But I think with all the superhero movie stories we've seen so far, you got to come with something a little more fresh. And the complaints I've heard is if they just stuck to the Woman of Tomorrow story, exactly, it would have been a better story.
But then you get people out there who say, well, this was just a rehash of the comic. So I don't mind that they mix it up. I like them to stay true to the characters, their stories and origins and personalities. I don't mind if they mix up the story a little bit, like Dark Knight Rises was kind of a mishmash of Nightfall and, No Man's Land. And they took almost 3 Batman stories and kind of melded them into one. I didn't mind that aspect of it. There were other complaints I had about that movie, but very quick, before we got some people in the chats over here. Wonder Kim 58, hello to you. The Kansas parents were unoriginal. That was my thing about Superman as well. And Irish Mom 420. Hi, James. Another great show. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. Just making sure I've got everybody in the chats. I'm trying to keep an eye on this. So I want to very quick before we wrap this up too, I want to make sure we tell you about our new sponsor, HW Kia of West County, by the way. If you are looking to sell a car, no one is going to make it easier than Darren. Go out and ask for Big D. That's what Darren's known as. Ask for Big D, ask for Darren, whichever you'd prefer, and say, hey, I heard about Geek to Me Radio. He sold you 2 cars now, said you make it easier than anyone else in town. Let him make you an offer on what you've got. I shopped around this last car that I sold him for a couple different places. He was by far and away above the other offers I got. Made it easy for me to say, yep, let's go for it. And he's also got a huge selection. So he's got used cars. Obviously, he's buying cars. So he has a selection of used cars there in Baldwin. And, of course, brand new Kia inventory. If you're looking to get into a new car, but you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I can afford a new car. He is really good at making sure you can get financing that you're good with, that you can afford, that's going to work for you. He is customer service first before the sale. That's what he wants to make sure is you go away happy whether or not you buy a car from him, whether you sell a car from him. And also their service center is beyond compare. If you want to take your car in, get something done, you want to make sure it gets done right the first time, go see HW Kia of West County, 636-591-2900. They're located on Manchester Road in Manchester, Missouri, 14116 Manchester Road. Look for the Arby's, because if you have to drop your car off the service center, go over and get lunch at Arby's. That's what I would do. But if you're looking to sell a car, if you want to buy a car, if you want someone you can trust, check out Big D and HW Kia of West County. That's actually took me a little longer to get through that than I thought. We are out of time, so I'm going to Final notes on Supergirl. What would you give it out of 5 stars?
I give it a 2.5 out of 5. It feels like a throwback to the 90s superhero movies. It felt like Judge Dredd, where you have a silly side character that makes no sense. But Millie Alcock is here to stay. She carries the character with weight, and she has charisma. I think will be no problem if they pop up in Clayface in 4 months, I think. Comes out in Halloween.
That's right. And I give it a 3.5 out of 4. I'm sorry, 3.5 out of 5. Go see this movie because we want more quality movies. We want more. If you didn't like it, that's great. I've got no shade for you. But give it another shot. If you haven't had a chance to see it, go out and see these movies. Masters of the Universe, Supergirl, Mandalorian and Grogu, Obsession. You've got a plethora of things to go see at the box. Plethora? Go see a movie at the theater. Go check out Ratterman Theaters. We ran out of time again. I'll tell you more next week. Thank you, and until next week.
The Big 550 KTRS St. Louis.
Of attacking each other, the